In Lesson 2 of the TrackerRMS Academy, we'll go ahead and cover off working with candidate records, working with activities, working with company records, and working with contact records in Tracker. So we'll go ahead and start off with working with a candidate record, and we'll look at what the difference is between a candidate and a contact is on Tracker. So if we look at our candidate, Aaron Shoplin here, a candidate record in Tracker is going to be anybody that you guys have that you are either actively recruiting or you have worked with in the past. So a candidate record is going to search and going to pull up all the candidates in the system, where a contact is going to be any of your hiring managers or anybody that are internal to any of the companies that are on the system. So you can go in and make an associated record. So we'll cover that off in a little bit, but you'll notice that for candidates, you have the black color here. If we look at contacts, we can also have a red color. So you can have an associated record if Aaron was hired on at a company that you work for, where you can create and link those two records together. So first, we'll take a look at how we can add new candidates onto the system and the different ways that there are. So from the very main page of Tracker, if you hover over the Candidates tab, you'll see that you have Add New Candidate and then Add New Candidates with Extract. So what this is Add New Candidate is going to be your way to manually add a candidate in. So we'll look at this as the very first way. So if you hit the button, it will take you out to a basic candidate record where we can input all of our information. So all that's required to create a candidate is just going to be their first name, last name. So if we wanted to create Steve Henry, we can enter in the information. And you can populate out the candidate record all the way down. So we can put anything from their position that they hold, their status on the system, which is going to pull from the statuses that you have, their current employer. This is a fixed field. So if you type in the employer, it would have to pull up a company on the system. So you would just select that company from the drop-down. Now, if there is a company that isn't on your system that you want to add in, you can use the green button to do a quick add and add that company into the system. So as you work your way down, you can put in address, contact information, and then under the profile, a summary or synopsis of that candidate. You can identify a work type that they're interested in. You can add their source of where they came from, their time zone that they sit in, and then also you can identify it as a private record, which we will go over in our admin settings. So if we wanted to add a new source, all you have to do is hit the green Add button here if it wasn't in the list of drop-downs. So if we found out about this, and let's take a look at our options. So if it wasn't in your list here, if this person actually came from, let's say, Ladders as a job board, all you would have to do is go in and hit the green plus, and then you could say, I want to add in Ladders, hit OK, and that would refresh. And when you select the drop-down, you'll see that that new option would be entered in here. So we just have to refresh the screen. So you'll see that as soon as that updates, we now have the new option inside the candidate record. And all we have to do to put a candidate on manually is hit Save and Continue. So you'll notice that once the candidate has been created, we have all of our additional screens on the left-hand side open up so we can navigate through and build out the rest of the candidate profile. So next, we'll take a look at how candidates can be added in from Outlook if you have a resume that you're wanting to parse into the system. So we'll go back to the home page here. So all you have to do is in Outlook, pull up your email. So if you have a resume that's been sent over, you'll have your Tracker Outlook add-in that's going to sit on the top of your inbox. So if you look at the very top, you'll see that that add-in will be embedded into your Outlook. Now all you have to do to create a new candidate on the system is click the Create a Record drop-down. You'll have a number of different options in here, but to create a new candidate, I just hit Create /Update Candidate. Now, what this will do is if the candidate already exists in the system, it will update their record and put the resume in. If they don't exist in the system, it will create a new candidate. So when you click the box, it will simply ask you where did they come from. You can select where that candidate came from. You can also pick up the document here. So if there are multiple resumes that you're wanting to bring in, you can bring in multiple resumes from email. The one thing to note here is if you have cover letters or if you have any additional documentation, it can risk creating a duplicate candidate because each document is processed separately. So if you have a cover letter that doesn't have any details, it may create a duplicate record. So I would always recommend taking cover letters and adding them in separately, which we will go over in organizing data in Lesson 4 of the Academy to really go through how you can use documents in the system. So all we have to do to parse in and create the candidate record is click the box, hit the green OK button, and that will take the resume, send it into Tracker, and it will create a full candidate record in the system with a click of a button. So the other functionality that you'll also have within Tracker is you can use track attachments to create a candidate as well. So if I hit track attachments, what this will allow you to do is take it a little bit further. So you can actually pull up a job that you're actively working that you have in the system. It will do a lookup on the job. You can select the record name from the drop-down. So if you had a Java developer position that you were sourcing, you could pick that up. Now you can select the document to go into a folder. You can also choose to parse in that candidate to the short list or the long list of that job. When you click the box, you can process the resume, create a new candidate record in Tracker, but what it will do is it will create that candidate, but it will also assign them directly into the job. Now what you'll get once Tracker has processed that candidate in is an extract report or a mail that comes into you from our mail agent. What it will let you know is what happened with that particular candidate. So here we'll see that the resume for Alex was processed. The result of it was it updated the existing record on the system. There was no new record created, and an additional message is letting you know that that candidate was found on the system. So extract updated and didn't create a new candidate. So we get a lot of questions on can this email or can this alert be turned off? And the answer is no. But what a best practice is to set either a rule or a filter in your inbox to make sure that those are processed or kicked out separately. So next we'll continue on and we'll take a look at how a candidate can be added using a resume or a document that's saved on your desktop. And this is where you can use our extract option to create a candidate from a resume. So if you hit extract here, what it will do is it will pop up a message on screen that will allow you to drag and drop resumes in, or you can also click and access them from your computer. Now you'll notice that there is an options button. What this will allow you to do is before you process those resumes in, you can change to update the status to something different if you don't want it to be the default. You can assign the source, and you can also assign them to a particular job or list on the system. If you don't touch any of those and bring the resumes in, it will just create them as active candidates on the system. So all I have to do here is I can take resumes that I have on my desktop, I can grab them and drag and drop them into the system, and it will process those in just a few seconds. So you will notice that I can do additional resumes. So if I wanted to bring in a second one or even a third one, I could do them one at a time, and it will just queue them up and keep creating those candidates. Now to access any of those, all I would need to do is click the arrow here, and what that would do is it would take me out to that candidate's profile that's been created in a click of a button. I can close this window out, and if I wanted to create or parse in more candidates, all I would have to do is hover over candidates, hit extract right here. It is also available from the candidate screen directly. So if I click on the name candidate at the very top of Tracker, it will take you out to the candidate page here. And if I go to the right-hand side, you'll also see that there's the Add Candidate dropdown. And what this will do is I can also manually add a candidate record from here. I can use extract, which is the same box that we just did, But what you also have here is the resume drop zone, which will allow you to add resumes in directly from there. So if I wanted to drop a resume into the drop zone, I can do it right here, and it will process and create a candidate directly from there. So a number of different ways. Now you'll notice here that Tim Henry was the resume we just used, and Tracker has updated his record because it found we processed the same resume. So that's a great example of how it would update instead of create a new candidate. So now let's go back into Mark Shoplin's record here, and let's take a look at a candidate profile. So when a candidate is parsed in or created from the system, what you'll get is it will try to get as much information as it can from the resume, and it will load it in. So we'll take a look at just basics about the candidate profile and how the records are laid out inside a Tracker. So on the left-hand side, you'll see that it is color-coded, so I can know that I'm in a candidate record. You have your main tabs of the candidate record that will go all the way down on the left-hand side. Now the way that Tracker navigates is as you click through the record, you can have all of your information within blocks of info. So instead of scrolling down on one screen, I can quickly navigate Tracker by flipping through the different tabs of information. Now the layout designer will let you customize your layout so you can move around entire blocks of data up and down. So from the bold lettering all the way down to the next section, you can take and move up or down or into a different block entirely. So check out our admin videos on how to customize your layout, and that will show you how you can tweak that from your end. So if we look at the candidate record, you'll see their name and then their status on the system will be in parentheses. Moving to the right, you're going to have the favorite star, which is where you can click on or unselect to tick them as a favorite contact. The padlock will indicate whether it is a private record or not. So you can set up private records and have restrictions on those. The resume will give you a plain preview. So if I open that up, I'll be able to look at an unformatted plain version of that candidate's resume at a click of a button. Moving to the right of that, we have the tag, which is where I can put in a high priority note or any type of text here. So this is a great way to say anything that you want to have visible across the team. So this high priority note that you're entering in can be entered into the field right here, and this will show at the very top of that record. You can also delete those just by clicking on and hitting delete tag. So moving to the right-hand side, you have save and close, which will save and take you back to the previous screen that you're on. Save changes will save any changes on that page and keep you within the record. Best practice here is to make sure that you guys are hitting save. Oftentimes we'll see people hit save and close on accident, and what that will do is it will take you back to the main page. So if you are wanting to stick within the same record, make sure that you're hitting save changes, and it will update any changes that you've made without having to leave the screen you're on. Delete candidate is where you can delete a record on the system. It will give you a warning that will pop up and let you know, do you want to delete it, just to make sure that you don't accidentally delete that candidate off. So you will have to hit the OK button. Return to candidates will take you back to the prior screen or the main list that you're on. There is the paperclip here, where if you hover over that, it will show a picture or a photograph that you can put on here. This is one that would just have to be manually entered in. There isn't any way to automatically extract those pictures, but you can hit select photo, and it will let you take a picture that you can save and upload into that candidate's record. All you have to do is pick it up from your desktop. Now, one of the most important parts of Tracker is going to be the blue touch bar that you see on the right-hand side of the screen. This is going to be all throughout the records on Tracker. So if you notice that what you're trying to action out or do isn't on screen, if you hit the touch bar, it will expand out and give you a number of different functionalities, from sending a template or an email all the way down to adding a hot list or creating or linking to existing contacts on the system. So looking at the main blocks of information, you have the candidate details, which is going to list the main pieces of info on a candidate. You have the address and contact info, which is going to list out address and contact details of the candidate. the candidate profile, which is going to list out their summary and any additional details on here. You have candidate or custom fields, which will have any custom fields that have been built from your end. Quick skills will be where all the skills are listed out for the candidates. Documents will house their individual resumes or documents that are on the system. And a number of different blocks of info that are inside of a candidate record. So the layout can be designed. So these pieces might be in slightly different places from your end. But one of the things that we want to highlight and touch on within a candidate record is the timesheet and expense block here. So if you guys are using the timesheet portion of Tracker, in here, this is where you can see the time that's been booked out for the candidates. You'll be able to see the portal information, which is what that candidate will use to access their time portal. So you can go in and log into that portal. So a candidate will see a basic portal where they can list out their time and any information. Now you'll notice that there's a number of options here, such as expenses, online documents, and this portal can be updated from within Tracker. So if you look at the block down below where it shows timesheets and expenses, this is where you can choose to hide or remove certain blocks within that candidate portal. So the other tabs, if you notice, will also have activities and notes, which is going to be where any job history is displayed, any activities against the candidate, such as phone calls, emails, interviews, and then any campaign results or any mass mails that have been sent out. And salary and internal notes will house the resume employment history, which will break out from the parser to show their most recent history. Any internal interviews that have been logged, as well as salary and pay, and notes as well. So next, we'll take a look at working with activities on the system and the different activity types. So we'll use this candidate as an example to look at the different types of activities that can be logged. So if we go back into the activities section, you have activities, and what Tracker will do is it will list the most recent as a default. So if you have activities that are older in here, you can hit Show All to show those if there are additional ones. Now, Mark, we just logged into the system as a brand new candidate. So let's hover over candidates, use our recently viewed records, and let's go into a candidate that we have a little bit more history about so we can look at some more details. So here we're going to use Aaron Chaplin. We'll go into the activities section, and this is where I'll have a number of details against this candidate. So under the job history, I'll be able to see the most recent job that he's tied to. And activities will start to break out all the different types of activities that are on the system. So let's look at the Create Activity dropdown and the different types of activities that are on Tracker. So you have tasks, appointments, letters, telephone calls, emails, text messages, faxes, conferences, sales calls, and interviews. So the primary ones that are used are typically going to be your phone calls, your emails, and then your interviews, of course. So if we wanted to log a phone call, when you click on the phone call activity, you'll have a number of different things in here. So to log a phone call on the system, all you have to do is enter in your details. You can put in the notes what was talked about. So if this was a phone call that was attempted and Mark or Aaron didn't call back or didn't pick up, all you would have to do is put in a note and said, tried to call, no answer. In this case, at the very bottom of the screen, you'll have your no answer activities. What that will do is it's one-click access to be able to click on those buttons, and it will automatically reschedule that phone call for you. So if Aaron didn't pick up and I wanted to try to call back later today, all I have to do is hit call back later, and it would automatically log that phone call at 12:14 p.m. as a follow-up, and you would see no answer was booked in as well. So if I wanted to pick that phone call back up later on in the day, you'll see that the notes will start to categorize down, so I can see the date and time that that was made, as well as the note that was attempted. So if this call was tried again later and we did get a call with Aaron, we would just be able to put in our notes and we could say Aaron was very interested, but too busy. wanted a call back in a week. So what Tracker allows you to do is put in reminders or follow-ups. So all we have to do in this case is go down to the status bar. This is where we can disposition our phone calls as any one of these statuses here. So completed is going to log that as a completed phone call. And now on the left-hand side, you'll see the green follow-up, which is where I can go in and I can schedule out the follow-up activity. So in here, you'll also have the workflow tab, which is where we can set a candidate status or we can update different pieces of workflow. The assignment is where you can take that and update it or assign it to a different user. The documents section is where you can upload or attach documents. The custom field is where any custom fields that are built against an activity will show. And then at the very bottom, the green follow-up button is where I can hit that and say, yes, I do want to follow up. Aaron wanted a phone call, so we're going to go ahead and book a phone call out. My notes will keep on building up, and I can pick the date and time for this follow-up. So if it was next week, I could say Thursday the 17th. I can put in my time at 12 p.m., and all I have to do is hit Save This Activity and create follow-up. I can also rename the subject if I want to name it something different, and I can assign the follow-up to somebody else on my team just by clicking the drop-down. So if I hit Save This Activity and create follow-up, we've now taken that activity and we have booked it in the system. So next, we'll take a look at viewing the activity log. So here, it's going to be a very basic table, so I can look at all the information. In the activity log, you'll see that green is going to indicate something that is future or hasn't happened yet. Amber is going to be something that is today. And red is going to be anything that's historical or in the past. So there's simple color coding that's going to be there to show you, the different activities. You have the date of when it happened, the time. The status is what the status of that activity is. And then the association of what candidate it's tied to, what contact it was tied to if it is work-related, and then what company if it was tied to a particular job. The right-hand side, you'll see who that activity is assigned to, whether it's an incoming or an outbound activity where you're logging that. And then you can also see what the priority is, and then if there was an attachment with that particular email. The other thing to keep in mind is the preview eyes are dotted all throughout Tracker, so if I want to look at this activity without having to open it up, hitting the preview eye will give me the notes and info of that activity without having to fully access or go into it. So next, we'll take a look at working with company records, and we will take a look at how we can add companies onto the system. So again, you can hover over the word company, and you can add a new company by using the quick link here. If I click on companies, you'll also have a link to add a new company from the main company table. On the right-hand side, it will say add a new company. So if we want to add a new company on the system, all we have to do is hit the green plus arrow, and we can enter in our information. So if we wanted to put a test company on the system, we can enter in that. We can tag the type, whether it's a prospect, a client, or any additional company types that you've put into your system. The vertical is where we can build out the type of company or the type of vertical that is. Company owner is always going to be defaulted to yourself. Now the parent company, if you are using parent companies, you can tag or tie it to a parent company. Rank, you can rank it. Source, you can indicate where it came from. And then department and territory, if you're using them in your system, you can indicate. So down below, we'll put in the address information for this particular company. Now it's important to fill out as much as you can here, because what it will do is it will tag in to any contacts that you're adding, and it will make these potential defaults. So all I need to do is enter in some basic contact information. If I wanted to put my phone number in here, you can. There is the ability to format your numbers on the system. So if you look at admin trainings, it will go over how that can be set. And all I have to do to put a company on is hit Save and Continue. You'll notice that once a company is created. Now in this case, it's a perfect example of what will happen if you have a client with the same name, is it will give you a blue indicator that will tell you that client already exists. So we'll go ahead and say this is test company 2. So if I hit save and continue, it will create the company on the system. When a company has been created, you'll see on the left-hand side that it will turn to blue. It'll give you the name of that company, and you'll have all of your additional options broken down below. So next, we'll just kind of take a quick tour through the company. So you'll notice that the overall look and feel is going to be exactly the same as a candidate. So you have your tabs of info on the left-hand side. You have your company name up top. You have your favorite star. You have your high priority note, and the same icons for saving and accessing the record. The touch bar, again, is going to be there to give you some advanced functionality, such as sending a template or adding an address or note to that particular company record. The details are going to break out the details of that company. Contacts is going to display any contacts within there, and we will add a contact in and show how you can add contacts into a company shortly. Addresses are where we can add in a company address into that particular company. The primary address and contact info would be entered in here. So if we wanted to add a new address in, all we'd have to do is hit add address, and we could enter in the information here. Now because this one was already on the system, it kicked out the information that we entered the first time. So here, if we wanted to add in a new client, all we have to do is enter in their address, hit make primary. We can give it a name if this is a headquarter. Hit save and close, and that will add an address into the address table. Now you'll notice that in this case we don't have it listed down below. This is because the web page just needs to refresh. So if you hit F5 on your keyboard or go up and hit refresh in the browser, when that page refreshes, you'll be able to see that information will now carry through because it won't display until that is refreshed. So the history and activities section will show any activities, any jobs, leads, or projects that are tied to that client. The organization tab will show any skills, any candidates that are currently working there, an organization chart, any company custom fields that have been created, and then any record links if you're tagging or tying records together. The documents and notes section is going to show any documents against that company, any invoices, and then special terms, any framework rates, notes, and then any background info or a summary on that particular client. So now we'll go up and we'll take a look at how to add contacts into the company. So you'll always want to tag contacts to a particular company to keep them organized. All we have to do is hit create contact. And this will go out and create a new contact, and you'll see that all of our information will pull through. Now, one other just quick tip we'll look at, if we go back into test company 2, and we can either use quick search or we could also hover over the companies tab and access it right from here. When we look at test company 2, the other option that you'll have to look at or add contacts in will be to go out to the touch bar, and I can create a contact right from here. So the touch bar is always going to be a quick link, kind of like a right click of a mouse, to give you additional functionality. So here we'll use our shortcut to create a contact, and we'll populate out a contact record on the system. So we'll keep this really easy, and let's say we have Andy Smith. All we have to do is put in our first name, our last name. Now we can indicate their job title. So if he was in human resources. Now a couple important boxes in here is the box down below to make him a primary contact for that company. You can also indicate the contact type if you want to build out, that he is a prospect, a client, whatever the type is. So as we work our way down, you can have any additional information. Some critical ones to make sure are having a phone number in, so you can have contact information for that contact, as well as an email. So if you're trying to send emails or templates out, you can make sure to have that information in there. So now all I have to do to create him as a contact is hit save and continue. Again, you'll see that once that contact is created, I'll have the name pop up as well as the additional tabs of information. And now I have a contact that's tied into that company. So we'll take a look at adding contacts and really the layout of a contact record in just a second. But what we'll do is we'll use our quick link to the company, which is going to be your icon right here. Now what this will do is it will link back to that company record. You can also hit the button to the right of it to show you the history there. So here, if I go in and link back to the company record, we'll see that our contact table is being built out. We can look at all of the information across here, and we can access that contact with a click of a button. So this is how we can build out contacts against a company inside the system. So the other option that we have for creating contacts is just the same way as all the other records in Tracker, is you can add a new contact from the quick link button. Or if you click on the contact tab, you can go and you can add a contact using add new contact from here. Now there is an add via LinkedIn button. So this is something that you would have to have your LinkedIn settings logged in. What this will allow you to do is you can take a URL or a public address of a LinkedIn candidate, and it will attempt to create a public profile from that LinkedIn contact based on their security settings. So it is going to be basic information. It's not going to extract contact info or anything. It's just going to be their public information. So if we wanted to add a new contact from here, we can hit the Add New Contact button. It'll pop us up to a blank contact entry screen. Here we can put in all of our information. So the important thing to notice is if you're doing it from here, it's not going to pre-populate any of that company information. So if we were doing it for our same test company 2, I would have to enter in test company 2 and pull up that company. It will automatically pull through any defaults for address or contact information, and then I can build this out right from here. So if we wanted to put on Robert Smith as well, we could enter in his information, build out any contact info. Now if this wasn't the primary contact, we could just add him in. Any contact information or anything additional that we want to enter into here, we could. And then all we have to do to put a contact on is hit Save and Continue. So now we have Robert created as a contact on the system, and it's that easy to create contacts within Tracker. So next we'll take a look at how to create a basic contact from Outlook. So again, you can use the add-in, and what the add-in will do is if I have a contact or an email that's come in from a candidate, so this is just a test email that we can use, all I have to do is go in and hit Create a Record. I can hit Create a New Contact from this email, and what it will do is our mail agent will go out and it will try to find where this person works. In this case, it's just a personal email for a test, and what it will do is it will create a contact on the system based off of that email. So it's going to extract their first name, their last name if it's clearly spelled out, as well as their email address and tag it to that particular contact. So in here, if we wanted to go in and look at the information, it has now created that record as a contact in the system and taken the email address and briefly put it into there. So next, we'll take a look at one of the test contacts that we built on the system, and we'll look at just the structure of a contact record. So here we have the same look and feel. So navigating through a contact on Tracker is going to be just like a company or a candidate record. You have your tabs. You have the same icons across the top, same navigation. You have your paperclip if you want to attach a picture or an image, and then the touch bar on the right-hand side. All of the blocks of info are going to be very similar, where you can break out any of the information. Now, at any time, again, if you wanted to change the primary contact, all you'd have to do is hit the tick box here. And if you wanted to add that contact automatically from within the company, All you would have to do is from that company record, use the touch bar on the right-hand side and create a contact directly from that record. So that takes us through Lesson 2 of the TrackerRMS Academy. Covered everything from working with candidate records through to working with contact records on the system. In Lesson 3, we're going to be working with job orders and how to work through a job from start to finish.